Imaginarium Theater. You remember that new endgame mode that Genshin added, like a year ago at this point? Well, it sucks. Still. And I'd like to talk about why it sucks. Honestly, you probably already made your decision. Genshin is so played out at this point. You're either one of the people that's very disappointed in it, or you're one of the people that's playing it just fine. So there's really not a lot of point to this, I suppose, but I just want to talk about why I think it sucks. There's a lot of things about it that suck. Like, everybody's first impression when it was released was that it was really bad. There were a few people that liked it, but they were usually just like really hyper invested whales, or people that got really bored with the game. But for the most part, people didn't like it. And the big reason why was that you just couldn't pick your party. Genshin, up to this point, always allowed you to pick your party. It was the core element of the game, to be honest. You assembled a good team and then you fought enemies. That's just always what you did. But this is the first game mode that just simply did not allow you to pick your party. Not only does it not let you pick your party, but it chooses what elements you can even use. So, to really address why this is so bad, we actually have to go all the way back to the inception of this game. In the inception of this game, this was like a waifu simulator. This was like a waifu collection. They called it Breath of the Waifu when it first released. So this, what it originally was basically just like Breath of the Waifu. It was like a collectathon, or like a exploration collectathon type game where you play as waifus instead of, Link or something. And it's like, a pretty good idea. But when it came to the end game and the core mechanics like artifact grinding and, EXP and like weapons and things that made the characters stronger, the simple fact was that the reason you invest into a particular character is because you really like them. You want to like simp for them, you invest a ton of constellations or weapon or whatever, and they give all these, methods for actually doing that, like, spending a ton of money on the weapon banner, or rolling a bunch of their constellations, or, grinding artifacts for hundreds and hundreds of hours, or spending some money to recharge your resin to get a bunch of good artifacts for them. But here, that's just out the window. Because you can't pick your party, any of the characters that you like the most, sometimes you just can't even use. It forces you to invest in characters you don't even want. Don't even want to invest in, don't even want to use. Now, yeah, that might be like novel, kind of interesting maybe, but also, like, why would I want to do that? Because for one thing, so many of the 4 stars they released post-launch don't hold a candle to the ones released at launch. Fischl and Beto are still 2 of the game's best off-field Electro supports, 5 years after launch. Sucrose is still one of the best units for grouping and elemental mastery buff, almost completely outclassing someone that's supposed to be her mentor, as he only provides a modest damage increase in elemental mastery buff. Poor guy's been crept into oblivion. That isn't to say that grouping in general is that useful anymore, but maybe that's a topic for another video. The second thing is these cards that you can draw to give you companions of a specific element or randomly. And no matter what, it always sucks to draw these cards. It might be a character that you haven't invested in, a character that you don't want to use, and even if it's a character that you like and want, it still sucks to get them. Because that means you're going to have to use them in an upcoming run. You have to use 4 characters, which means that every single slot has to be taken. That means that if you don't get enough filler characters, you're going to be wasting usages of your main characters that you've invested into and actually want to use. That means you won't be able to use them for the difficult boss fights later. And I know what some people might be saying. Just invest into all your characters. Why the fuck would I do that? Like I said earlier, almost none of the 4 stars they released post-launch hold a candle to the ones released in 1.0. Eula's Bitch Boy. Ito's Bitch Boy. Sara. Oh, you mean Worst Bennett. The worst character in the game. Alhaitham's Bitch Boy. And the list goes on. Almost every single 4-star they've released since launch has been insanely niche, or just a straight downgrade from a unit released in 1.0. So why the hell would I want to spend time investing into these characters? Oh, that's your own fault. Is it? They should have done a better job at releasing characters that we actually want to build and use. It's like, yeah, this is a horizontally scaled game mode, but that's bad. Because this game is bad. They release bad characters. Another thing that sucks. Because the characters you get are completely randomized, you can get yourself into sections where you have to replay. Or in other words, depending on what characters you get in a particular section, you will succeed or fail. That means your success is dependent on either hyper-investment, more or less, or pure luck. There can theoretically be situations where in one run you can get the characters that you need, and in another you can't. That just seems really bad to me. Especially like, as I said, in a game where you build parties with synergies and fight enemies. It's like we all know how Genshin has moved away from team building and combat in recent years. But then why did they release this game mode? Just to hammer that point home? It just strikes me as a really poorly thought out game mode in a lot of ways. It's like, do you want it to be a team building game? Then why can't I build my own teams? Do you want it to be a waifu game? Then why can't I pick my waifus? A good question to ask these days is, who is Genshin for? Because when it was first released, it was for otakus. It was by the Tech Otakus Save the World company. Then they changed. Now it's some weird visual novel lore game with endgame for whales. Another thing is the buff cards. Yes, even the buff cards suck. Primarily because you never know which one you're going to need. Because you never know what characters you're going to draw, so you never know what characters you're going to have. How can I properly invest into a buff when I don't know what characters I'm going to have at the end of the run? So here's how literally every single Imaginarium Theater plays out. Spam every companion draw. Use as many filler characters as you can. Don't pick any buff cards. Save as many of your carries for the very end as possible. Then, only then, once you get to the very end, buy as many buff cards as you can for the characters that you have, because then, and only then, will you know what characters you have to buff. Oh, but here's another thing. Sometimes the cards that it can give you are just run enders. The buffs that are supposed to help you can sometimes end your run. And then you have to rewind and play another part again. Another thing is when buff cards give you a choice, but it doesn't really seem like a choice. They're both like basically the same thing. It's just one is fire and one is water. Or one is just blatantly better, like one is 3 seconds and the other is 4 seconds. And then you have others which are just blatantly bad or do nothing at all. Like the one where it gives you a character, but then a character doesn't appear after the next battle. It's like, what was the point of that? You just gave one to me sooner? Further reinforcing that the idea of having characters be obtained with random draws was a bad idea. But actually, even that's not a buff. Because it only gives you one character and you could potentially get multiple from the draws. And it eliminates your ability to get any character draws. Do you see what I mean about these buffs? They're just bad. So anyway, I think that's about all I had to say about Imaginarium Theater. I think it is an unbelievably terrible game mode. I have negative fun every time I play it. But honestly, these days, I've mostly quit Genshin. I just can't stand the visual novel nature and terrible events that have nothing to do with the core gameplay. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all again later, maybe.